All right, we are recording. Perfect. Welcome to the Standard Podcast team, where we raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies or misconception nobody else will. This isn't motivation, this is a movement. And today I'm Thomas Rowe, joined by Aaron Charles, my host. And today we're sitting down with Emmanuel Smith, Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs and Vanderbilt graduate with a track record of earning buy-in and high-pressure environments. From NFL sidelines to sales floors, Emmanuel played linebacker in the NFL for the Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kansas City Chiefs, where he won a Super Bowl ring. But Emmanuel's story isn't about football. Today, he builds winning cultures by focusing on people with process, clarity of roles, standards everyone owns, short feedback loops, and celebrating small wins. The result? Trust over fear, effort compounds, and performance becomes repeatable. His core strength are listening, empathy, calm under pressure, resilient mindset, and inclusive leadership. Beyond football, Emmanuel's faith and commitment to underrepresented communities drive his work. He's here to compete for championships and help other teams achieve places where everyone else can contribute their best. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life. So let's get into it. Emmanuel, you're a rock star. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you, and I appreciate all the kind words. Made me nice and smiley inside. So I appreciate that. But happy to be on the show.
Right on. Emmanuel, you went from undrafted free agent to Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now you're building winning cultures in business. What does raising the standard mean to you, especially as you've made the transition out of football?
Yeah, no, great question. One, I think a standard is something that is extremely important that sometimes we can overlook, right? I think Satan said that high achievers hate being around mediocre people and mediocre people hate being around high achievers because the standard that they set for themselves also can make other people uncomfortable, right?
Sure.
And when you play in sports and you have a standard of like, hey, one, you can't really be complacent because your head can be on the chopping block every week at Tuesday at 4:00 because it's a cut day, right? So like you had to always be on your P's and Q's to make sure everything was actually flowing. So you never got complacent, but you also knew the standard of the team that you were on. I think that's one of the main things that I learned from my time in the league, especially with Kansas City, was the standard that Andy Reid had for himself and the coaches that also trickled down to the players and Pat and Travis and how they also carried the team. It made everybody else around them buy into that standard. If you didn't buy into that standard, you had an option to just leave, right? Because like we knew what we were trying to do. We had a goal. We had the plan. Now everybody knew what the work looks like to go reach that goal and that plan. Now, whether or not you wanted to buy into that standard that the team has set to believe into that plan is up to you. But if you don't believe in that standard, the other guys on the team will either call you out on it or sad news is you get let go. So
wouldn't it be convenient if every company worked like that? You got to buy into the standard. If not, you're out the door. What do you think is the biggest lie or misconception that you feel the culture of the sports industry sold athletes about leadership, culture, and what it takes to build something that lasts?
Oh, man. I think the industry has sold athletes. That can go 1,000 different ways, right? First and foremost, I think as athletes, a lot of times we understand what it's like to go be successful in our arena at a high level, which is a great thing. We understand when you're growing up, like the 2-a-days, the extra practices, the late nights, the early mornings, like all that stuff, you understand so well and it's built into you. But when you get to that next level at the pinnacle, you say, hey, I made it. A lot of times then you feel like the world is your oyster. But realistically, it's really not your oyster. The world is what you make it. You have to be willing to go out and actually go network because you have the NFL shield on you. Does not mean that people are going to be drawn to you or want to talk to you and help you progress in your life in the next phase, right? A lot of times, because you have that shield, you got to realize how to actually take that and go apply it to where you can actually start having resources and having tools to have those conversations to either set yourself up or to help other people, because you do have a platform that I think that can reach the masses, right? It's a guy on LinkedIn who plays in Denver Nuggets right now who's doing a great job of actually, while he's playing basketball, highlighting his journey, they were talking about success principles and things he's learning while he's still playing. Right. And I think that's such a great skill to be able to do. And not a lot of athletes utilize LinkedIn or resources or start telling their story like that until it's a little bit after the game is done. Right. So I think for most people, like the dream of your soul is like, hey, the road is yours once you get out. And realistically, you look at the statistics of it, you see, man, like a lot of professional athletes go bankrupt. A lot of professional athletes have a lot of trials and tribulations in their life because they're so caught up thinking that everybody wants to be around them or the world owes me something versus flipping that and be like, hey, God has blessed me with opportunity to have impact and have influence, but I still need to utilize that to be able to continue to set myself up. So even when ball is done, I'm not on the trajectory that's going down. I'm on the trajectory that's actually going up to benefit everything around me.
Got it. And you say building winning culture by focusing on people and processes, clarity of rules, standards everyone owns, short feedback loops, and celebrating small wins. How did playing at Vanderbilt and in the NFL teach you that culture is a system and not a slogan?
Man, that's a great one. The idea of culture is it is a system, right? And I think you have to figure out how to find that system of the culture that you want to create. And when I was at Vandy, I remember we came in as freshmen and had a handful of guys, and we called us the OTNU, so Atlanta University. But we all had like a culture and really a hunger first. We had a hunger to actually want to go do something more than what we've seen. We wanted to make a change. We wanted to impact things. But we had to realize, like, how do we build a culture of people who actually come in, buy into that system, right? And that was a hard thing to figure out because you have to take some nicks and bruises, and sometimes it's not pretty. You have to figure out, how do I get up and continue to show these people or show the team or have that culture buy in to, hey, we might lose a game and get killed. But at the end of the day, like, that one game is how to find us. The culture that we built allows us to break free of that, shake free, and perform for the next game that we kind of have going on. And that goes up into the NFL, right? Like every team that you look at in football, baseball, basketball, every team has a culture. And you can see bad coaches, you see good coaches, right? I think if you look at the teams that do terrible in the NFL, they probably don't have a great culture inside the building, right? It's probably a lot of egos and pride. That's all about me. If you look at teams that have great culture, and I can just speak when I was with Kansas City. I mean, we had people who could have had huge egos: Pat, Travis, Tyreek Hill, Tyrann Mathieu. None of those guys had egos that actually detriment the team, right? They were very much so focused on the culture first, and their shine came through that. And that allowed the team to actually, like, hey, man, let's feed them, let's go. And when they say something, everybody's like, we don't all that, because we see, like, it's not so much about me, it's about, hey, how can we win together? And then through us winning together and the culture growing, I will still get my shine throughout the end of that. And that's where I can really see, like, you want a system for growth, system for culture to really be cultivated and put in there so it can turn and can grow. So it's like, you can't just say I have some type of slogan or some motto and expect everybody to buy into it, because everybody has that. Nobody's going to buy into a model. They're going to buy into what they see people around them doing and how they act and how they carry themselves and the energy that they're producing or giving off when somebody walks into a room.
That's so true. I mean, that's one of the things we hear a lot is how culture is king. We're going to turn it over to Aaron for segment 2, identity and legacy. Aaron, go for it. Take it away.
Okay, so I want to know, my first question is, who is Emmanuel well beyond all the accolades, the Super Bowl ring, playing at Vanderbilt? Who are you, and what are the values that have shaped who you've become?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was listening to a podcast on courage. And one of those things was talking about having your identity, right, and who you are, and being able to step outside of what the comfort level is of what people know you are. And the identity for me, it comes to, like, one, I'm a child of God. That's first and foremost, right? And so I always remember I grew up having a strong faith background with my brother and my parents. Grew up in the church. That was something we always had instilled into us. Two, I tell them all the time, like, I just want to be able to impact people and help people to realize, like, hey, you can go do anything you want to do in life. Right? Like, you meet me out in the park as a complete stranger. I wouldn't tell you I played in the NFL. I used to talk to homeless people all the time when I first got to Kansas City, not because I wanted to. It's like, man, I actually enjoyed hearing their life, hearing their story, because I wanted to be able to help other people have their own breakthrough. And so it comes to that, like I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a man of God, and everything else that comes with titles, that just came from things that I've done, that accomplishments that I've done. But I've had a lot of growth to learn. Like, that's not who Emmanuel is. That's just achievements that he may have done in his life. And I had to realize how to separate those two things, because for a lot of people, the separation of those two things is really hard because it becomes your identity. And I struggled with that early on.
That's such a great point. And I think a lot of people get lost in that. So with that, your core strengths of listening, empathy, calm under pressure, a resilient mindset, inclusive leadership, what does legacy beyond performance mean to you, especially now that you're helping teams build culture where everybody can contribute their best?
Yes, I think legacy is one of those things, and I have some mentors in my life, and shout out to them. That legacy, a lot of people say is legacy like what you leave behind, right, for the people behind you. And a lot of times what I've realized just from learning through other people who are successful and just educating me at a better level, like legacy is also what you instill into the people that are coming through behind you. Because if you just leave something behind and you don't instill something into them, that legacy left behind will crumble. So, like, what are you pouring into the people who you want to leave that legacy for? Because at some point, if you walk away or you leave that job or you leave that team or you go coach another team, the legacy that you put into those people is going to be what carries the legacy you want to leave behind for everybody else.
I love that. That's so true. I mean, very well said. How you say your faith and commitment to underrepresented community drives your work. How does that mission connect to the culture building work that you're doing now?
The culture building work I'm doing now is illegal, which is fun, and that's just kind of my job. But also, like, outside of that, just building communities. And the one thing that I really learned is I believe that everybody in human nature is meant to have a tribe, right? And I think everybody has their own tribe. If you're in school and sports, sometimes it might be like, hey, I'm in the medicine track in school. It might be on the frat, but people have a hunger for naturally being around people who have what they want, or they have similar things in common with, right? So we all have a tribe, and a lot of times people, when it comes to figuring out how to help underprivileged communities, it's like, how do you create a tribe of people? One, they got to want help, right? You can't just give it to them because they don't appreciate it, and it's going to just fall on deaf ears. So how do you find that place to be able to create a pool that makes somebody want to be in a room with where you are, that can allow them to be better and help themselves? I think a couple ways you do that. One is you have to learn how to serve people. I'm learning how to do that better and better each day. It's one of those things that's always an ever learning thing. But I think the man upstairs, Jesus Christ himself, was one of the best servants in the world. And he just went out and unapologetically served people no matter where they came from, what walks of life they were doing, even when people were throwing sticks and stones, and crucifying them. So for us, it's figuring out, like, how can I serve people from my heart to help them in the best life that I can, right? And that might be different for everybody, but you got to realize, like, I think you have to get outside yourself and be willing to go serve other people if you really want to help create a culture, but also help build the privileged communities.
I love that. That is so perfectly said. And I think, we have the best example to use in order for us to really, I think, emulate that. How would you say, you believe that trust beats fear and that effort compounds when the culture's right? What's one truth you wish every leader, coach, or athlete understood about building a winning culture?
There's two guys actually. Their name is Paul and Caitlin. Well, there's a couple other ones, but those two, they always say leadership is spelled example, right? So if you want to create that culture, lead that type of thing around, if you want to be a leader, it's not because you have a title, it's not because you have the power. It's more so like, what's the example you're showing people behind you as you're trying to lead? Because that's what they're going to buy into. They're going to look at you and be like, hey, what are you doing? I'm going to follow what you do, right? Not what you say. And that's the big thing when it comes to leadership. Like, how can I create leadership? But I got to be willing to, one, to be a leader first. You got to have followed somebody else. I haven't been led. So you can't just be like, hey, I'm declaring myself a leader today and you've never been led before, because that way you're never going to understand what leadership looks like. I mean, when you do find leadership and you find good leadership, when you find somebody who actually walks out the example of what a good leader looks like by, hey, I'm telling you to do this, I'm also doing this. I'm not going above and beyond that in that area. So I'm telling you to do those things because I want you to see, like, hey, when you look at me, I'm an example of what leadership should look like. I don't need to go look somewhere else to find another example, another leader, quote unquote, because that's what you see, right? People are attracted to what they see, what they can see you doing, and how you talk and the energy you give off. And if you're not doing those things to show people how to be a leader by leading by example, nobody's ever going to follow you. And then you'll just have a bunch of things that people claim they're leaders, and there's no following behind that leadership.
Yeah, I always love that. Just from my corporate background, is it's kind of like this whole, I think sometimes you get leaders that's like, do as I say and not as I do. And it's like, no, it really starts with you first and foremost. Yeah. So with that, I get to transition back to Thomas.
Nice.
Excellent. So Emmanuel, one of the things we talk about with a lot of high school athletes and their families is how do you pick the right university for you? So for you and your skill set, if you could go back to the days when you were getting recruited and you narrowed it down to 2-3 schools, how did you pick Vanderbilt?
Yeah, no. One, I tell you have to have counsel, right? That was the main thing. And I had a group called NPA, that National Playmakers Academy. And when you train with them, they kind of take us to the schools and visit things. But the main thing I tell people now, I tell myself, is when you go to a school or you commit to your high school looking to go to college, don't commit to a coach, right? I mean, a coach might say all the greatest things. They might present the greatest, official visit you could have in your life. But every coach has a price, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But because of that, you got to be willing to sit down. And I tell kids, if I get hurt, if I can't play football, basketball, whatever sport you want to play, would I still enjoy my time at this university, right? And if the answer is no, that is not the school for you, right? And so for me, I had to sit down and like, look, I love the coaches. I committed to Coach Franklin. He was at Vandy. Coach Shoup was their DB's coach. And then when I signed my letter of intent, I played under Coach Mason, who was a blessing. I love Coach Mason. But it was funny, the coach, I changed that DB coach, Coach Shoup. The following year, he went to Penn State. The next year, I think he left Penn State, went to Mississippi State. Yes, that left Mississippi State, went to Tennessee. And I would have been one of those kids that like, I'm chasing the coach, but I never would have played, right? And I love him to death. He's actually at Vandy now. We reconnected, which is great. I gave him a huge hug. I went back for a couple games. But I always tell high school kids, man, like, don't get wooed by the all and the things they'll put in front of you, right? Because like that's just for that short weekend. They put on a production for you to be able to go down and see. You need to sit down and like, what's important to you? Like, hey, if I want to do this in school, I want to be able to have this type of community. If ball's taken away, I still want to be able to be in a city that's doing these things. So is your family important to you? Like, what my brother and I did, we took a map and we took a pencil and drew a circle around a 6-hour radius around Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And if it was outside of 6 hours, we were not going there, right? That's what we do. We value having our parents going to all our games, right? So you have to figure out what's important to those kids and tell them, like, you go by the standards and the expectations of what you want yourself to do, what you want to look like, and you don't compromise on those because the coach can tell you anything they want to tell you, as long as they get you to sign that dotted line. Once you sign that dotted line, then you're there at the school, and then things can change, right? So you want to be able to figure out, like, do I actually enjoy this school, the city, whatever degree you want to study in? All those things, if ball was taken away, because you might get hurt, you have no control over that. Can I still enjoy the life that I want to be able to create without ball?
Totally. And how you go undrafted and have to fight for every opportunity, what advice would you give that person leading up to the draft?
You cut out a little bit. Well, undrafted to what?
And then you had to fight for every opportunity. What advice would you give that version of yourself when you were going into the draft?
Man, going into the draft, I always tell people, I tell every kid in college, we have opportunity, please try it. Just try it, right? Because you don't want to be one of those guys who looks back and be like, man, I wish I would have tried that. That's first and foremost. Now, knowing the league is the majority made up of undrafted guys, right? But you're going to be undrafted. You have to have the mindset like, I'm going to fight and scrap for every last thing that I need to get, right? And that does not mean by lying, backstabbing, and trying to trick people and tell them the wrong plays on the field to make you shine. It's like, hey, I'm going to show up. I'm going to compete. A lot of times you're undrafted, you got to learn multiple positions, right? Like you got to learn, like, hey, you might will and say you might need to learn safety, right? You got to be kind of more of a Swiss Army knife, right? Like you're not going to be granted a lot of the same opportunities as somebody who was drafted. So going in, knowing that, you got to be willing to prepare yourself. Like, hey, I got to go in. I got to know what I want to do, but I still got to know how to understand the systems, the schemes, and what the plays look like. But then I got to be willing to look at myself and be like, hey, am I mentally in the place to sit down and really get it all I got to invest, knowing like I don't have a shot. I do have a shot of not making it, right? Because a lot of times you get the Grim Reaper call and you walk up to the office and got to turn your iPad in and give you a black bag. And that call is not fun, no matter how long you've been playing. It's always about if you're undrafted and it's going to be a dog fight, but it's a dog fight that you can learn a lot of things through and a lot of things about yourself if you're willing to sit there and actually put in the work, understand the grit, and then reflect, right? And don't get caught up in like, I got to be perfect. Because a lot of times you go out there, at least for me, right? I was like, I got to be perfect. I can't make no mistakes. I got to do this, right? And a lot of times you have that perception or you start thinking those things. And ironically, everything you were thinking about, I got to be perfect. You go make a bunch of mistakes and you're not playing for your true ability because you're so worried about being perfect. Like you're going to make mistakes. Don't make the same mistake twice, right? Like you do. Don't make it a repeatable mistake. Like learn from it. Take note, ask the questions, but then always go 100%. I won't say balls to the wall, but always go 100%. Like, give it everything you got. Ask questions, and at the end of the day, go out and have fun. Because if you do get the chance to be undrafted, and you get a rookie minute champion invite, you are still part of the 1% that's got a chance to put on an NFL jersey. So with that perspective, go out and be blessed, have fun, and with a smile on your face every single day because you're doing something that you love that's not promised.
No doubt. Every time we meet with somebody, we always come up with the title of the episode, and balls to the wall is the one. Aaron, that's the one we're going to use, balls to the wall.
You got it. I love it. Go
Emmanuel,
balls to the walls, kids. Okay, that's a recipe to success.
Emmanuel, what about when you're on practice squads, bouncing between teams, dealing with injuries and uncertainty? What did this teach you about resilience, mindset, and earning that buy-in environment when you were not a starter? And when did you know that moment, for example, we talked to another athlete, much like yourself, that won a Super Bowl. And when did you know that it was time to walk away from the sport?
No, man. I mean, the life of undrafted free agents is one of those ones that's, I wish if I could go back and do it, I filmed it so I could show my kids. Like, hey, you get the call, you're getting 24 hours, you're on a plane, you're flying to a different city, doing a workout just to see like, hey, I like you. We don't have a need for you right now. Putting you on an emergency list. If things pop back up, we'll call you back. Just send you back out less than 24 hours later and fly back home. And then like hearing like what do I do to continue to make money? Like became a substitute teacher for a little while, which was one of the biggest blessings in my life. I'm just figuring out like, how do I do this undrafted life? Because it's not as glamorous as everybody. Like everybody sees the NFL and they see the glam. And I think it was great. But on the flip side of that coin, there's a lot of ugliness to it, right? I gotta think about time. Like people watch Hard Knocks. I refuse to watch it because when you live that situation, like that's somebody's lives, somebody's dreams. You watch get told right in front of them, like, hey, you're not good enough, get crushed. Right. And I've been there and it sucks and it hurts. So a lot of times, like, I can't watch somebody's dreams get crushed, especially when I understand what that journey is like. Right. And then like, you have to figure out like, one, getting told you're not good enough over and over again, it can start taking toll on you, right? And you start really like having identity issues, right? Which led me to like struggle with like, hey, suicide, depression. I was lost. Like I kind of walked away from my faith, right? Because I felt like the man upstairs had forsaken me because I didn't get to do what it looked like I was supposed to do in my life, right? Because my identity was so tied up in football at that point. And one of those, like, once you realize, like, the journey is going to be a journey, and everything in that journey, God has already written for you to have, and it's there to teach you something. And for me, when I had to go substitute teach, those kids helped me actually get a new perspective of what football was doing for my life, right? Like out of my head, I was a failure. Like I got cut, didn't make the team. I'm out here, the high school kid substitute teaching. I'm like, I failed at every aspect of my life. And I didn't care to go nowhere because everybody saw me. Like, hey, man, you're a football player. And I was like, for a while, I was like, well, I guess that was me. But when those kids gave me the perspective, like, hey, you actually still made it. You part of the 1%. You had your name on the back of an NFL jersey. You played in an NFL stadium. Whether it been just a preseason game or whether it been all the way through, right? Like, you still did something that a lot of people aspire to do. And when that perspective hit me, I was like, man, and it was one of those funny things. I remember I did a workout in Tampa. They put me on the emergency list and they had somebody get hurt. So like, hey, we're going to fill that different position. So I was like, all right, they flew me back home. And then about 3 weeks later, I was flying to an airport to Chicago to go work out for the Bears. I landed in Chicago. My agent calls me and he was like, hey, you can't leave Chicago airport. You have to go fly to Tampa because they just signed you. Right. So like one of those things, like I was like, man, like I never thought that. But when I got to Tampa, every single rep from that point on that I ever taken from Tampa always to Kansas City, a little bit in the XFL, I always had a smile on my face. I was smiling, I was laughing, and I was grateful for the opportunity to be able to still go out there and run the game and play professional football, because that was not promised. And that it taught me a lot to figure out like how to understand what you think and what you tell yourself, how much that really impacts your own self-image. And for the while, my self-image was pretty low because I was telling myself some bad things. So I thought I was negatively motivated, which I don't know why people feel like they are when they're really not. But those are the things I had to figure out, like, how do I figure out to flip those things? So once I did that, it really helped me start to set myself up to know, like, hey, like when I tore my Achilles, I was like, all right. I looked at myself and I was like, hey, I played 6 years. I'm on the back end of my career with an Achilles tear. I didn't get all the accolades that I wanted, right? And I can't be mad about that. But like, do I continue to chase the dream of football? And I tell people all the time, like, as there's certain points where you chase a dream so long, it can become a nightmare, right? Especially in professional sports. Like, I don't want to be one of those guys that's 35 still chasing the football. So for me, it was like, all right, I sat there, I looked at what did I really miss or what did I love the most about football? And for me, it was always the locker rooms. It was always the guys, the brotherhood, the unity. And at that point, when I decided to walk away from the game, I had found a way to replace that community for me that allowed me to walk away and not have any regrets about saying, like, hey, I gave everything I got.
That is awesome. And now you're helping teams scale and reset culture in business. What's the one thing you're trying to make sure leaders understand about building winning cultures that you had to learn the hard way?
You understand, like, one, allow questions to be asked, right? Even if it might be that's not a dumb question to the leader. It's a question that somebody needs to be educated on. Two, just lead by example and create a culture where, like, growth is something that's there, right? Like, hey, like, invest and show people you care about them. At the end of the day, people work hard or play the hardest for the coaches or the leaders that show them they actually care about them more than just a number on an employee. Right. So if I can show you, like, hey, man, like, it might be one of those times you might take a walk with one of your employees or one of your teammates, and it's like, let's talk about life, not even work. Let's talk about life. How are you doing? How's your family doing? What's stressing you out? Right. Like, it might be sometimes those conversations, but those conversations might allow them to see, like, hey, he actually values me and sees me. So when I go back to work, that their work ethic and their appreciation level is going to be way higher. You'll probably see more results from them actually doing more work because they feel valued, they feel heard, they feel seen. And a lot of times we get so caught up in today's society where it's like work, and we don't take a second to actually, like, check in on, like, how are you doing? What's going on? Having those relationships, but you still got to understand, like, those relationships also still do lead to work. And a lot of times that's why I feel like a lot of leaders mess up because they try to get certain. I got to hit this quote. I got to hit this result. I got to do this by this date, which is fine. And you will have to continue to do those things. But there's no reason for somewhere in that window of time, you can't take out 15 minutes out of your day and talk to one of your people, right? And that's why I think Andy Reid, which is one of the things that shocked me, when I first got to Kansas City, I was a practice squad guy. straight off being cut from Tampa. Like I was not somebody who was playing a whole bunch, right? Like not some big name. I was in the cafeteria and he sat down with me and he sat down and talked to me about just life, asking about me, asking about my wife, asking about my kids, asking how I was. And that was the first head coach, like in the NFL, that I had to sit down with me at the cafeteria and we just talked for about 30 minutes. But you know what I felt after that? I was like, Coach, I will give you everything I got every single day because you showed me you cared about me more than just a number.
That's right. How memorable is that? Andy Reid sitting down and chatting with you. That's awesome. We're going to turn it over to segment 4, which is the rapid fire round. Aaron, take it away.
Okay, I'm back. Here I am. So I'm going to start a sentence and you're just going to finish it, okay? So discipline equals
Freedom.
Leadership equals
Courageous.
faith equals
A follower.
legacy equals
Ooh, my fire. Legacy. I just went blank. Family.
family. I love it. What's one thing you would never compromise on?
Morals. Like it's what I believe in terms of how I want to live my life. And I don't want to sacrifice on that for anything. Dollar bill, more of anything.
What's one message, if you could put it on the billboard for the next generation, what would your message be?
I heard somebody tell me this and it hit me hard. And it goes back to faith. And faith is when you don't have control over something, is where you really have faith, right? And a lot of times today, we feel like we got to have control over everything in our life. And because of that, we don't really have faith that God's plan is going to work itself out.
Amen to that. We all can use that billboard, kids. Okay, not just you. Okay, Thomas, take it away.
Right on. Emmanuel, this is the final segment. 2-minute warning. Before we wrap up, is there something we didn't touch on today that you feel leaders, athletes, or teams need to hear about building culture, earning buy-in, or creating environments where everyone can contribute at their best?
No, I think you did. I mean, the question you guys asked was great. And I really touched on everything that you need to understand about building the culture, having environments, leaving a legacy, and it's really, at the end of the day, having an impact.
Right on. Final question. What is Emmanuel's top 3 sports movies of all time?
Oh, top 3 sports movies. Oh, man. I'm going to go say Remember the Titans.
Okay.
There's another one, Friday Night Lights. And there's one, it's 2 brothers in the UFC now. I think it's called The Warrior. It's one of my favorite of all time movies, just because the way that 2 brothers, different paths, come back and connect in the struggle and the heartache and things they have to go through to overcome. And just to see that family love at the end of the movie. If you haven't seen it, great movie.
Oh, yeah. I think Tom Hardy was one of the actors in that.
Yeah. Those are my top 3.
Right on. Awesome. Emmanuel, thank you so much for being a champion and joining us today. This was absolutely awesome. Where can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out, whether it's LinkedIn, your email, or a website? If you want to go ahead and drop that in.
LinkedIn, Emmanuel Smith, one kissing a Super Bowl trophy in the photo. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Emmanuel D_Smith. And then if you want to email me, it's EmmanuelDSmith7@gmail.com. And I'd love to be able to just talk to anybody and just help.
You rock. Team, if this episode resonated with you, do 2 things for us. 1, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. A leader scaling a team, an athlete learning about culture and buy-in, or a coach building something that lasts. 2, connect with Emmanuel. He just gave you his email address as well as his social media. And if you're serious about building winning cultures where trust beats fear and effort compounds, Emmanuel brings the experience from NFL sidelines and championship teams to help you succeed. And if you're an athlete, parent, or coach ready to raise the standard, check out blueprintbluechip.com. We help athletes build identity, discipline, and legacy that goes far beyond the game. And if you're ready to get clear on who you are beyond the game, join us for a free 3-day reset, win, play, show at blueprintbluechip.com. If this episode resonated with you, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps us reach more athletes, parents, and leaders who need to hear this message. This is the Standard Podcast, and this movement only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent fades, but truth endures. Let's raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and become the standard. Emmanuel, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. You guys rock. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.